whether W.H. Smith once banned satirical magazine Private Eye from its stores. Yes, the answer is true.
You're watching Britain's Sharpest Daytime Show with Vicky Butler-Henderson. This is a new book. Steve First and Liz McClarnon. Still to come this morning. Who would pay good money to look like Bugs Bunny? Fashionistas have decided the gappy smile is in. Some Muppets paying 1,500 quid to have their gnashes shaved so they can have a gap in their teeth too. 0207 173 5555 is the number for your thoughts on that. Shannon Rivers has already been in touch on Twitter to say she has a gap already and loves it but would never pay for one. It's just a case of wanting what you don't have, she says. Do you agree? First, though, should W.H. Smith stop flogging this? Suicide and attempted suicide by GSO. Let's bring up the book, show people at home, eventually. There we go. Now, this book costs £12. It details the best and worst ways of killing yourself. I'll cut to the chase here. Jumping from somewhere really high, good. Gassing yourself with hydrogen, bad. You might get burned. So if you're killing yourself, what would burns mean? Anyway, the book's author says he provides these details so people determined to kill themselves can do so effectively, while those sad losers who only want to make a cry for help know how far they have to go if they want to live. It's pretty detailed stuff, particularly the bits on drugs and which drug combinations are most effective. But most of the information is available for free elsewhere online. And now, W.H. Smith says its website offers access to every available book, and they have no plans to stop flogging this one. They don't sell it in their shops, though. The Samaritans don't approve, though. They say a book like this can and does cause copycat suicides. Is there a case for banning it, then, Steve?
It's going to be the one book that some people never finish, isn't it? You know. But it's a... Well, you write a book, you want people to finish, you want to find out what happens in the end.
The last bloke to borrow one from a library, never brought it back.
There you go. Look, I mean, it seems... I think it's a bit of a... It's a serious book. There's a lot of... There's about the history of suicide and pain control and hospice care, terminal illness, assisted suicide, euthanasia, and then methods of suicide. I think it's got a place, as books about anything have got a place. Well, it's not being... I mean, it's not being pushed on people. It's not a kind of... You know, you don't walk into a W.H. Smith and see a big display of suicide books. This
you see a big display of Jeffrey Archer's, which makes me want to commit suicide.
Yourself, exactly, yeah. Which, if you actually stack them up to a two-storey building and jump off, that, according to this, is a very good way of killing yourself. However, hypothermia, very poor method of suicide, just sitting outside on a cold day in your pants. Not good if you want to kill yourself.
Now,
I don't know, I just think you know, I think this is one of these books that people all kind of... by virtue of the fact we're talking about it, it's going to push sales through the roof.
Does the book itself tap into... Well, there are concerns that suicides can be infectious, aren't they? We have these the suicide websites that were recently, about a month ago, were big news. Are people copycat suiciding? Suicide pacts, two women, you know, gassing themselves in their house?
Well, I think the conversations is always going to be the worst thing if you get people together that form pacts and so forth, and that's how cults start, is by people that are in a very broken state getting together with other people and making these pacts. I think people buying a book by themselves and going, now, I'm not aware of how I could kill myself. Everyone knows how you can kill yourself. Yeah. It's in movies, it's in soap operas, it's in everyday life, and it's a sad fact of life that people are depressed enough to do it. So I think that getting kind of running around like a headless chicken over this is slightly unnecessary.
What about you, Vicky?
Well, I don't think you can ban it because there's a freedom of speech issue, and I think this information is available on the internet. I just, you know, in my dream world, nobody would contemplate suicide at all, but I think people must have to be down the road quite a way for them to want more information about how to do it.
I found the time wasters, the sympathy seekers element of it quite scary, that people who just want to cry for help and get some attention can learn how to do it without actually putting their lives at risk, or without really putting their lives at risk. I mean, that's quite dark.
Yeah, it's a fair comment, and it's quite a dark book. I mean, it's a black-covered book to start with. But I'd be suspicious, actually, about this person, because he's obviously not very brilliant at his subject for him to be writing a book about suicide. He obviously didn't.
Do you think
do a good
suicide
job.
is catching copycat suicides? I mean, Bridgend always comes up, and there was a lot of people speculating that suicide cults, suicide pacts, and in actual fact, from what I've read, it was very difficult to establish any link other than these people went to the same school or knew each other from the same town.
I think, you know, as Steve said, I think if you have a group together and you discuss something and you are quite depressed and, you know, you're that way inclined, you are brought together as a subject, and I think it probably could.
But this book
feed
wouldn't
out.
influence that.
Unless it's sort of brought up as some weekly reading book, I think it's quite difficult
Book
to...
club,
yeah, exactly, which I doubt it would.
Liz?
I cannot believe that you two are sat there actually discussing almost like the pros and cons. It's like, for me, this is absolutely horrendous.
That's the Catholic schoolgirl in you coming out, Liz.
I mean, this isn't because they're not going to... Yeah.
But you know, you know...
I don't want a concise, you know...
That's because you're not feeling suicidal, but if you were, OK...
Oh, let's help them along. Marvellous.
Well, no, but if you don't want... If you want to kill yourself and you don't want to suffer pain, you don't want to leave a mess that might upset relatives. I mean, these are things that people consider. And then you may think, well, what are the best combination of drugs? What can I do to minimise the pain to me and the pain to others if I want to exit? Some people get on a plane and go to a clinic in Switzerland. Here you can get a book online.
OK, euthanasia. To me, that is completely different.
But they talk about it in the book.
Yeah, it's a chapter. Yeah. A chapter out of how many? You know, this is a book about suicide and how we can do it and how... Oh, the history of suicide is not fabulous. I just think this is absolutely horrendous. What, again, as I said yesterday about a book, what publishers went, this could be quite interesting, actually. And then what guy at W.H. Smith, or woman, whatever, said, yes.
Well, I suspect...
I feel
it's because
sick
there's
even
a
talking about it.
I suspect there is a market out there. It's really interesting that it polarises people like this. Let's find out what you think at home.
OK, first we have Jade on line 1.
Jade, good morning.
Hello.
I'm told by our phone people you know someone who used this book.
Well, yes, it was a neighbour. Their ex-girlfriend actually used this book to help commit suicide herself in a very horrendous way.
And successfully commit suicide. They did actually...
Successfully, yes.
So what are your thoughts about W.H. Smith selling it, then?
I think it's awful. I don't see why they can continue to sell it when so many people are using it to actually effectively commit suicide and not just use it for advice as such, but to actually commit it.
But if someone wants to end their life, Jade, what is wrong with providing them with the information they require?
I think that it shouldn't be about helping someone end their life. It should be about them actually finding other ways to deal with their situation rather than want to commit suicide. I don't think, to myself, I don't think suicide should ever be an option. And it's sad to know that there is actually a book there that promotes it.
And also, you know, at the end of the day, attempted suicide is against the law. You will be arrested if you don't do it properly. I just think that, you know, it's...
Not anymore. I don't think it used to be illegal.
Oh, really?
I think
I didn't know that.
they changed the law, so it's legal. It's illegal to help someone commit suicide.
Right.
This book, again, this book would actually remove that problem. You wouldn't need to seek help from someone. You wouldn't need to put a loved one in a vulnerable position if you couldn't figure out a way of doing it yourself, because you can get it from the book.
I wonder what this author is now thinking that, you know, Jade has just rang up and said she knows someone who used the book to commit suicide and now they're dead.
I don't think there'd be any difference. I mean, you know, if people are in a suicidal state, they're not going to be pushed over the edge by this particular book. It's not going to put them in a position that they weren't ordinarily in. You can find this information by talking to people.
That's the one problem. That's the one hiccup I have. I mean, I'm a great believer in let everybody just put everything out there, let people decide. But there are concerns about copycat suicide. So,
there always will be, because if the news reporter, as a very dear friend of mine who was a very high-profile TV presenter, hung himself. Now, the fact that he was a high-profile TV presenter and a children's TV presenter, you kind of say, well, maybe it shouldn't have been reported because it's children who looked up to him, and unfortunately that's how he ended his life. So if they're going to be depressed children or adolescents or teenagers, as there often are, then don't you have a duty not to report it? Well, no.
It's very different to this book. That's so different.
It's still report. I don't think it's glamorising. It's just a factual book. It's not saying go ahead and do it. It's not encouraging people to do it.
It is encouraging.
Well,
it's not saying kill yourself. It's just saying these are ways of...
Listen,
it's not saying kill yourself, it's here's how you can.
I'm going to end it all here. the discussion, that is,
You
because
outside.
that issue cannot be resolved. But I think, I mean, Steve is in essence right. There is not one word in the book saying, kill yourself, do it. It is a book that if someone chooses to kill themselves, can get the information they require. But before you kill yourself or think about killing yourself, if you had those feelings, I'd suggest you talk to somebody first, someone confidentially, perhaps like the Samaritans. Their phone number popping up on screen now, or you can go to our website for other ways to contact them. Probably the best thing to do.
Or buy Vicky Butler Henderson's book instead, because it's a much better read.
You look at it and think...
Oh, it'll make you live longer.
Oh, it's filled, Steve, it's filled with cars I can't afford. And if I can't afford them, then what's the point of going on? I might as well end it all here again. You see, so it comes back... No.
Oh,
Sorry,
no.
Vicky. Sorry.
But the AA, not the Samaritans, then.
Now, thank God we managed to find something to laugh about there. Let's see how we do with this last one. Fashionistas have decided a gappy smile is in, but would any of you, anyone watching today, pay £1,500 to have one? To have your gnashers ground down to stumps and then fitted with narrow veneers so you get a gap? 0207 173 5555 is the number for your thoughts, and we'll hear plenty of them after these.
According to the French, having gap teeth is lucky, sexy or ugly. Find out after the break.